All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 3rd, 2018 school committee meeting here at Tyngsborough High School. I officially call this meeting to order, and I will start with introductions to my left.
Sharon Fairbanks. Julie Mastucci.
Good evening, Mike Moran.
Good evening, Mark Branco, Assistant Superintendent.
Hi, Mike Flanagan, Superintendent.
Anthony Tenorella.
Paul Mitchell.
Robert Mullen.
Kimmy Pazurski.
Ryan McMahon.
Joe Messina, Business Administrator.
Corey O'Neill, Student Representative.
All right, thank you. If I could ask everyone to please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Approval of the minutes. If I could get a motion to approve the March 20th, 2018 school committee meeting minutes and executive session minutes. Executive session minutes not to be released at this time.
Make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 7-0-0. Correspondence.
None tonight, Mr. Chair.
Visitors' comments and questions. Seeing none. Share the success. Mr. O'Neill.
The Tyngsborough Public Schools and Tyngsborough Police Department recognized yesterday as Autism Awareness Day and lit up the day blue. The elementary school, Matt Durkin, the executive director of the Durkin Foundation, and Tyngsborough alumni met with TES to teach how striped core values can be incorporated in everyday use. Mr. Wellman, a friend of TES, also came in to teach Miss Nicosia's class to show students the proper way of folding the American flag. Over at the middle school, they participate in the annual March Madness competition with dodgeball and basketball, and the kids highlighted as always playing their teachers in a game. Carter Times, the Project 351 representative, has created his very own initiative, and he is running a fundraiser for Cradles for Crayons charity. And TMS will be running a chorus class next year for any interested 7th or 8th graders. Over at the high school, I'd like to say congratulations to the middle school and high school band on receiving a silver medal at the MICCA Concert Festival. The sophomores participated in the ELA MCAS last week, and spring sports are in full swing, and boys and girls lacrosse played ground dodgeball today. That's all.
All right, very good. Thank you, Corey. Subcommittee update. Policy subcommittee.
Tonight, the policy subcommittee met and we reviewed policy 8.1, which is the athletic handbook policy. And so it's in your drive, so please review it, review the policy, and then also you'll be getting a copy of the athletic handbook to review. There's been substantial changes to it. So review it, and next week we'll be doing the first read.
All right, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Personnel.
Mr. Chair, last meeting, I believe, we announced that Sherry Dunbar, a school nurse from the elementary school, is retiring. And we're pleased to say that Sarah Eisenberg, who is currently working as a half-time nurse at the elementary school, doing a phenomenal job for us, applied for her job, and we're pleased to offer her the full-time position for next year. So Sarah Eisenberg from .5 to full-time school nurse at TES.
Very good. Thank you. Congratulations, Sarah. Unfinished business.
Mr. Chair, as you know, we had conversations last week last meeting about potentially looking at ways we could fund a full-time school resource officer for the district. So in your drive, you will see item 8A, budget FY 2019 SRO calculation. As you recall, we currently pay for a .4 SRO position in our budget, and we budgeted $29,000 for a .4 school resource officer. To get a full-time school resource officer, in conversations with Chief Howe, we need to budget $72,000. So we needed to find approximately $42,000 in our budget. So what we did, we made some tough decisions and we prioritized some needs, and to achieve that $44,000 threshold, we are going to gamble that we will get more of a tuition credit from Valley Collaborative than $50,000. As you know, we conservatively put $50,000 of credit in our budget. We feel comfortable and confident going up to $60,000 to pick up $10,000 towards that 44. Additionally, because the school resource officer will serve the Tyngsborough Public Schools as well as the Valley Collaborative, we're comfortable taking 25% of our Valley Collaborative lease money, or $18,000, and allotting that towards the SRO for year one. Next year, I believe Mr. Messina will build that $18,000 into the budget. But in stopgap right now, we'll take that $18,000 for this year. Additionally, as we look at staffing assignments and restructuring the middle school, we were able to pick up a .2 para position, which saved us $6,700. And because we have a teacher that resigned from the high school, was a veteran teacher, being replaced by a bumped middle school teacher, there's an offset of $9,300. So that brings us to $44,000, a reduction off of or off your previously approved initial budget. That 44 coupled with 29,000 already allotted gets us a full-time SRO for Tyngsborough Public Schools next year. I'm also pleased to say that I've had several conversations with both Chief Howe and Sergeant Manning as to what that position will look like. And it's going to look very different than right now. Right now, we pay for .4 of a position, so we get .4 of an employee. The chief has committed that if that officer is out sick for the day, he will replace it with a regular police officer in our schools. So because we are making this commitment and funding this position fully, it will be staffed fully. Not going to be if the police officer's on a vacation day, we're just going without for the day. He will get a backup for that as well. So we're pleased with the direction of this. I think it's great for our schools. And I know that, or I believe I got the sense from this committee, this is the first step towards increasing security in the school system. And we can certainly have that conversation next year come budget season. But very pleased with the direction of where we're going. I think this is a solid way to get there. So I guess right now I would seek a motion and a second to allow us to make this $44,163 adjustment off our initial proposal to have a revamped proposal that we'll bring back for our public hearing and final budget vote at our next meeting before it goes to town hall, but before it goes to town meeting.
Make that motion to adjust the budget to provide for a school resource officer.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just think it's an important thing. It's all as far as safety and what's going on right now in the country, but also in the future. I think it's going to provide programs that have been sort of gone away. The DARE program, some forms of that. I think it's going to be an important thing to be able to keep the community involved, the kids to understand what police do and what they're there for, and the police to understand what's going on with our young kids.
Absolutely, well said. This is going to be a proactive position. This isn't security guards sitting in a booth. This is somebody who's going to know our kids and have connections with our kids and bring programming, DARE, opioid awareness, sexual harassment, all of cyber terrorism, cyber bullying, really, it's going to be a proactive position. I think it's great.
I just have a question. I know it's separate from this topic, but it relates to the bill that was introduced in the state legislature about funding officers who are retired to be part of statewide SRO officers. And I think that's I think it's a really good idea. I think the state can chip in to cover those costs because a school committee or a school district like Tyngsborough are already strapped with the busing needs and everywhere else that our budget's stressed, and getting the help from the state would be a wise move from them. And I think it's also harnessing the retired officers who are already trained for high stress situations. They're already trained with weapons. They're already trained with these other programs that Mr. Mitchell mentioned. So it's not like you're bringing someone in green off the street. And I would really hope that, if you have a chance to talk or write a letter to your own congressperson, your representative state, or talk to Colleen Gary or Eileen Donahue, I know she's taking the role, but whoever backfills her, to really encourage them to pass that legislation, because that would also help a different avenue of funding. But the key one is us getting this initially started.
Great.
And that will also give us a second school resource officer in town, because the Lowell Voc will have one as well.
So correct. So in town right now, there's one SRO servicing all the schools. Next year, there will be 3 SROs servicing all the schools. Greater Lowell's funded a full-time one. Tyngsborough Public Schools have funded a full-time one. And the town picked up the other .4 of Steve Manning. So Steve Manning will oversee both SROs, and he'll be at the Greater Lowell 3 days a week.
Perfect.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 7-0-0. Alright, thank you. Food service bids.
Mr. Messina.
Thank you. As the committee is aware, we had 3 volunteers looking at the 2 non-price proposals we received from Whitson's and Cafe Services. At this point in time, I'm not sure if the 3 volunteers would like to share any input with the full committee or make any recommendations to the full committee or discuss what our next steps may be if that's not the course of action we'd like to take.
Well, as one of those on the committee, I think Woodson's doing a great job for us. I don't eat the food, but my children speak very highly of it. I would if they'd let me. It's a lot cheaper than some of the places I go for lunch. But I'm happy with Woodson. I think they've been a good vendor of ours for a few years. So I'd like to hear what my
So I did the analysis. I broke down the menus. I looked at the menus that they offered for the year. Whitson's, I could find a little bit more how they matched what the requirements were and then the information in their packet. And it was very easy to navigate. And but they both had very good nutritional options. I liked some of the differences in the menu. I didn't think I saw the prices, the pricing in this, so I wouldn't know the comparative analysis on that. It's just it is the change more disruptive than to keep the current one and try to negotiate a better or same deal at the same time, maybe offering the food flair that they were offering for the menu. So I like Whitson's as well.
What was the Don Wilson's company again?
Cafe Services.
I actually like that one better. I thought they had more variety with their menu, more programs to introduce different types of food from around the world. I thought it gave more exposure to different types of food for the students. Not to say that Whitson's is doing anything wrong. Like, kids have good things to say, so if you stuck with Whitson's, I'm fine with that, but I like the other one better.
Although I couldn't use their online website. I don't know if it was down at the time I was trying to use it. So I was, I'm an online guy. I want to check. If you say you've got it, I want to check it out. I couldn't. It just wouldn't do anything for me.
I can tell you in terms of, yes, you did not see a price proposal, and that's designed. You're actually basing your decision on the non-price proposals only. It's not necessarily a lowest bid you're looking for. It's the company that would best provide you for the service. Once you make a decision with the vendor, then we look at the price proposal, and you're free to negotiate with the firm that you choose at that point. In my quick look at both of them, I can tell you that Whitson's is certainly much larger in terms of operational support. Cafe Fresh looks a little bit smaller. Cafe Fresh does not have a footprint in Massachusetts at this moment. Whitson's did not when we chose them back 10 years ago. The one thing Whitson's did have 10 years ago was a pretty established, larger footprint in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Cafe Fresh seems to be a little bit smaller, smaller enrollment districts in New Hampshire and Vermont. Again, if the volunteers would like to see them both come in, and we can take a couple of nights to have them come in and do a little dog and pony show, bring some food maybe. But again, I leave that up to the 3 of you. We can wait until.
Is there a timeline for a decision for us?
Well, I mean, the bids are actually good for 60 days, which we're right on the edge of that in terms of, not necessarily having to make a decision, but at the very least, if we decide to carry further, we can go back to both companies and say, we're extending this, based upon our decision to either make a recommendation at the next school committee meeting or bring you both in to do a quick presentation of what you have to offer. And again, in terms of Cafe Fresh, if we do bring the companies in, you'd really want to drill down Cafe Fresh in terms of their transition. What does that transition look like?
I actually,
And again, getting their
It's fair to
foot,
do.
getting their foot into Massachusetts, what does that look like?
right.
They're not familiar with DESI's rules and regulations on school nutrition. So you'd want to make sure that that company would have a very solid handle on what they're going to do to get up and running in Massachusetts.
I'm open to it, but I'm not pushing for it.
So where are you at in the process right now? You got sealed bids, is that correct?
We have, the price proposals are sealed. The non-price have been opened.
And that's what they've seen?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think we need some kind of direction here tonight so we can move forward. If we wanted to go one more meeting, we can certainly do that and look at what we need to bring in. Do we want the vendors to come in with food samples? There are options that we could certainly entertain. But I think it's a good, you bring up a good point in terms of specific Massachusetts regulations that that would need to be complied with.
I'd be happy going to continue to use Woodson, so it's up to you guys.
I only have one vote, so
That
I have already said that I did like Woodson's as well.
Ryan, would you like?
I don't think there's any point delaying it if you guys both like Whitson's. I have no complaints against Whitson's, so
Alright.
we'll move forward with them.
So the recommendation then, I think,
From
from the
From this
subcommittee
group.
or from the committee that looked at it would be Woodson's.
would we go forward with Woodson?
So do you want to bring forth the motion at this meeting to recommend Whitson's to the committee, or we can do that at the next meeting, whichever you're most comfortable with?
We could do it here if that's our decision.
So if the language of the motion is, I will recommend a motion for the committee to vote on to have Whitson's as the designee
To award
to award
the FY19 food service bid with 4 one-year options.
Okay, so I'll make said motion to award the 1-year bid for a 4-year option.
4 one-year options.
1-year option.
It's the way DESI
Yes.
has
In
that
compliance
with
with
food service.
DESI's rules.
It's not a 5-year contract. It's a 1-year contract with 4 one-year options. If I could ask you to amend that, just to authorize the chair to sign any and all contracts and agreements.
And I will also make the motion, or as part of this motion amended, that the chair is able to sign the contract.
Anybody want to second that?
No one wants to touch it.
Even though it's-
No one wants to touch it.
Still have some questions.
How's that sound?
Could I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
So Joe, now if Whitson's comes out and you open up the bids and they're 10 times larger than what we expect, where do we go from there?
So Whitson's will bring forth the price proposal that is a no worse than break even proposition, including a number of different enhancements they see that they can amortize over the 5 years of the agreement. Both companies were instructed to bring forth a break even price scenario. We don't want this food service to cost us money.
Okay. So essentially they both should be the same.
I would not anticipate a large variance between the two price proposals. And again, if we thought that they were offering something in the price proposal that seemed incredibly large, we do have the right to negotiate with them to get the program to better than break even. But again, I think Winston's at this point operationally in terms of this year, we're running at a slight profit within the program, and I think Whitson's is skilled in terms of knowing exactly what this needs to look like in all of the time.
Oh, they know what's going on in the district, and just if the other company comes in at a much lower rate, is it something we have to take a look at? I'm confused about how this bid process is working.
No, without choosing one vendor over the other, it's strictly based upon non-price. The price is more designed to be opened after you award the contract, and then should you choose to negotiate with the company to get a lower price. Certainly in a break-even operation, it's a little more difficult, but in a true request for qualifications or request for proposals, if you have a number for a particular job, and I'll use like hiring an engineer or an architect, again, it's not price proposal based, but if you choose an architect for a project and you open their price proposal after you choose them, and it's a crazy high number, you can go back to that particular vendor and say, we really anticipated you charging us X. And if the vendor says, I'm not going to honor that, you throw the whole bids out. They're not
Start the
responsive.
process,
You start
yeah.
the process over again.
Okay.
I don't anticipate that in this scenario with these two vendors.
Okay.
Joe, do we have any communication with them, with Witness the past year or two concerning any capital needs within the kitchens? And is that something that we would also negotiate with, maybe having them help out with the purchase of some of any equipment?
Yes, so within the non-price proposals was a 5-year capital improvement plan that would be amortized over the life of the contract. Basically, the company saying, we will make it profitable enough that we will be able to make an investment into the kitchen lines that will recoup through amortization over the 5 years of the contract. Specific to your kitchens, right now, it's the middle school kitchen that we've been, with the SOIs out there and the hope to get a project, we're purposely trying to,
Sure.
Band-aid some of the needs at that particular line. At this point in time, I think, both companies looked at the three, when they took the tour of the 3 kitchens and said, this is the one where we would want to make some capital improvements.
Well, some of those items, if they were to install anything, wouldn't that be able to pull them out? And, obviously not a refrigerator freezer, because that's a
There is
actual
there,
room you're building.
there is actually a particular update that they almost wanted to go forward with last summer. We sort of put the hold on it last summer. But most of the projects we've talked with them about that building is make sure it's portable. Make sure we can take it somewhere else, because we really didn't want to put anything, a new freezer, as you mentioned, or anything else like that. If it's a serving line, those serving lines can be disassembled and reassembled somewhere else.
Sure. Is there anything on the high school or elementary school that they have concerns on?
I have heard nothing over the past year. We had some tables at the middle school that, again, Mr. Triakis' crew, rather than us order new aluminum tables, he was actually able to sort of fabricate some sheet metal over the existing wood ones. So we basically had new counter surfaces on our old tables. So Mr. Triakis certainly, make sure his crew can keep us running.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And the only person we haven't got input from is the one who actually eats it.
Yeah, I think Whitson's. I don't eat too much lunch, but a lot of my friends. I think they do a good job, creative. Like you see flyers, it's Strawberry Month, you'll get a strawberry shortcake. So I think they definitely get involved. And I have seen in the last, I'd probably say 2 years of school, kind of like I've been better satisfaction. So I think it's on the right path. So I like Whitson's. I have no.
Cool. All right, well, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That carries 700.
Thank you.
Thank you. Student and Exchange Visitor Program.
So, Mr. Chair, we received good news last week via email that our Homeland Security background check was cleared, and we are now an authorized school district for a student exchange and visitor program. That being said, if you look under 8C in your drive, there are 2 specific companies, Greenheart International and Educatious Group, that we are working with directly. Kate Trainer has been in contract with both those groups this week, and we're waiting to get back and really nail down what our profile will look like, so that we can actually start recruiting students for potentially next year as part of our student exchange program. So kudos to Jeff Ogden and really Kate Tranter who took the ball and ran with this. So in 6 short months, we went from application to interview to approval, and now we look like we'll be able to host exchange students for next year. It's a matter of locating enough host families for those students. Again, we're going to start small, maybe 6 to 10 students, see how that goes, and then we'll assess after a year or two and go from there. But again, that's a good profit for the district. It's a creative way to bring income into the district, and and more importantly, it's a great opportunity for our kids to be exposed to different cultures. And sometimes we don't expose our kids to enough beyond the walls of the school and the community of Tyngsborough. So I think this is great cultural experience for our kids as well. So we're excited about that, and all is moving forward.
Excellent. Number 10, finance. Oh no, I'm sorry. Number 9, new business, Medicaid reimbursement.
Mr. Messina.
Thank you. So as a housekeeping exercise at a special town meeting each year, we need to have a warrant article placed in front of the voters to have the Medicaid receipts received during FY17 increasing your FY18 budget. Historically, this would be nice to be done at a fall town meeting. The Department of Revenue requires that the free cash be certified for the town before a warrant article such as this can be brought to the voters. Similarly, last year we brought this to the special town meeting prior to the annual town meeting in May. Again, looking to do that this year. Those FY17 receipts totaled $201,282. Based upon the will of the voters, that would get added to this current year's budget. It is a revenue line that we recognize in the budget, so we're certainly hopeful that the town will continue to support that. But the school committee does need to vote to submit the article.
Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to submit the warrant article for the 2018 special meeting to transfer the Medicaid receipts totaling $201,282 for fiscal year 2018.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries 7-0-0. Now on to finance. Signing of the bills, Mr. Messina.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 10 warrants were. Here comes the power.
You have the power.
And I certainly appreciate my house is probably going to start warming up, so in time for me to get home.
It's time to talk about money, but the power.
Back to your business. 10 warrant articles for bills were submitted to the committee tonight. In your drive is the warrant numbers, accounts, and amounts. Also, in terms of payroll, in your drive are 2 payrolls since you last recognized these payroll warrants. Payroll dated March 19th and April 2nd. Again, in your drive, warrant numbers, accounts, and amounts.
Very good. C, other. At this time, I'm actually.
Payroll,
Oh, did you do payroll?
Are you finished?
Yeah, you did.
So defer 10C to the superintendent.
Thank you. All right.
All right. At this time, I'm going to recuse myself and turn the meeting over to Mr. Mitchell.
So it was brought to my attention, I was at a outside, and it was brought to my attention that there may be a conflict of interest with the carbon colors and toning. And I asked Mike to talk to our lawyer, Mike Long, to get some advice as to what was going on. I didn't believe it, but he's written a background for you like I'd like to read to you.
Paul, if I could just say one statement before that.
Sure.
I think it's important that the committee knows that both Tony and Ann Tenerella contacted the Ethics Commission today to self-report to be fully compliant and make sure that we're in front of anything that potentially could come. So that being said, thank you.
So the background is, come to the attention of the school committee that a conflict of interest may exist under MGL C268A relative to the district's long-term business purchasing relationship with Print Shop Carbon Colors. As the shop is owned by a district employee, Tyngsborough High School softball coach Ann Tinarella. The district and the town of Tyngsborough have been customers of Carbon Colors for many years, with the relationship predating school committee chair Anthony Tinarella's election to the school committee. Ann is the spouse of Mr. Tinarella. The school committee is concerned that due to limitations imposed by MGL C 268A, welcome and valuable services and products might not be available to the district. Special municipal employees may pursue an exemption under MGL 268A Section 20, allowing them to have a financial interest in a contract with their employer municipality. However, if the contract is within the same municipal agency, i.e. a school district employee having a financial interest